Good evening, good evening, good evening. This is Michelle Portier, founder of Healing Women, Healing Nations of Northeast Florida, radio talk show host for Michelle Speaks. If you hide it, you can't heal it. National speaker, author, activist, and advocate. I'm coming to you very briefly to share with you a few tips on handling an emotional crisis. I won't be with you long, but I just wanted to share these quick tips for how to handle an emotional crisis. So, first and foremost, tip number one, and this may be one of the most important ones, do not make any important, major life changing decisions immediately following an emotional crisis. And the reason for that is often initially, and it varies depending on the individual and how you process things, our judgment becomes impaired immediately after encountering a traumatic event or traumatic incident. So you want to avoid as much as possible making any major life decisions such as getting a divorce or getting married or buying a house or things of that nature, or switching careers or changing jobs. Things like that, you want to hold off on that until you get your emotional equilibrium back on track. And so the next tip is do not take on any additional responsibilities. What do I mean like that? It's typical during a crisis to feel enormously strained, um, and experience some difficulty functioning in our normal daily lives. And so you want to avoid taking on anything extra. For example, if you hold a position at your job and you're asked to take on additional responsibilities, that might not be the time to do that if you just recently encountered a traumatic event or incident. Um, take time to take very good care of yourself and don't add stress, any undue stress. The third tip is do not pressure yourselves to meet others people's obligations or expectations of what you should be doing. If you're one of those people pleasers, and I'm guilty of that, I used to be, um, I would often put others before myself to the extent that I was not taking care of managing my own needs. So, especially after a crisis, that's not something that you want to do. The main thing you want to focus on is taking care of yourself, being gentle with yourself, doing things that um, make you feel good, and you want to be patient with yourself. Ooh, that word patience. That's something that I'm still learning, but you want to be patient with yourself and don't rush the process of trying to process your traumatic event. The next thing you want to do is you want to confide in those that are within your trusted circle of support. Many times when we encounter traumatic events, we may isolate ourselves, and that is one of the most detrimental things that you can do. You don't want to surround yourself with people that are toxic to you, but do want to surround yourself with your circle of support so that they can take some of the pressure off of some of the things that you may be encountering, things that they can take over for you. If you have children, maybe they can take over taking them to school, or just things that you really don't need to focus on during that time. The next tip you need to do is to, as much as possible, maintain a routine. The sooner that you're able to return to your regular routine, the more beneficial it will be, because when we have traumatic things happen to us, we lose our sense of control over our lives. And so, the more that you're able to maintain that routine, that will give you a sense of regaining the control over your life that you may feel like you've lost due to whatever it is that you've encountered. The next tip is try relaxation tips, whatever works for you. Listening to music, um, taking a nice hot lavender bubble bath, hanging out with friends, or having a friend over to have a cup of coffee and just to share what's on your mind, because that will help you to make you feel less alone. Um, take in some deep breaths, some deep breathing exercise, whatever works for you. The next thing is to remember how you've handled previous traumatic events or incidents that have occurred that have caused you to be on an emotional roller coaster or have fluctuating emotions. Remember how you coped in difficult situations previously, and that will help you in coping with whatever this current trauma or incident is. The next tip is to focus on what helps you. Find out what works for you, find out what makes you feel good, and eliminate anything else, including negative outside influences. And so if you find yourself around people that drain you of energy, then when you're on the road to emotional equilibrium, for lack of a better word, then you want to limit your interaction with people that you feel are negative influences for you during that time. Because the main thing you want to focus on is your own self care, emotional, mental, physical well being. That is your focus. The next thing you want to do is be prepared to know that you will have fluctuating emotions. Whereas before, you may have always been cool, calm, and collected no matter what you encounter. Things that wouldn't normally bother you may now bother you. Um, if you get a phone call and then you're trying to multitask because somebody comes into your office, or if you're at home, your kids come or your spouse comes, and you're trying to take care of something else, and it wouldn't normally irritate you or frustrate you or make you emotional, but it does. That is okay. It is normal. So allow yourself some leeway in that area. Um, journal, journaling. It may help to write everything out, your feelings out. And if it gets to the point where all of that is not helping, then it may be time to seek some additional help, some professional help. I know it's kind of taboo to talk about seeing a counselor, a psychiatrist, um, but you might need to see someone, talk to someone other than your circle of support that may be able to assist you and provide you with some other coping skills until you get back on an emotional equilibrium. And so the last and final thing that I want to share with you is to remember that only you can determine when you are ready to take on your normal responsibilities, or when you are ready to engage in those outside of your immediate trusted circle of support. So take your time, because everybody handles trauma differently. Everybody handles traumatic incidences differently. So whereas you may know someone that has encountered something and after a week they're back on track, it may take you a little bit longer. So allow yourself that leeway and that grace. And so that is all I have. Tips to handling an emotional crisis. This is Michelle Portier, founder of Healing Women, Healing Nations of Northeast Florida, and radio talk show host of Michelle Speaks. If you hide it, you can't heal it. I hope that this has been helpful to you. Take care. Be well. God bless.